call this meeting of the Alexander County Board of Commissioners into session at this time. At this time, we will have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be given by Commissioner Berkey Jennings, the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Andrew Ferguson. Please rise.
Lord, we are meeting tonight to conduct matters of business for Alexander County. Guide our hearts and minds into the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our efforts may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance this evening. Amen.
Salute. Pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Tonight, we have a special recognition, and there will be two different items under special recognition. This time, I will call on Commissioner Berkey Jennings.
Give me 1 second. It is my great honor and pleasure to award a key to the county to Timothy A. Glass. So, Mr. Glass, if you'd step up to the podium. And if you will step over here beside me. And I'm going to read the inscription on the plaque. The Alexander County Board of Commissioners bestows this key to the county upon Timothy A. Glass in recognition of his many years of outstanding service to the state of North Carolina and the citizens of Alexander County, presented September 8, 2014. Congratulations. We can have one, if you could look right here. That's right in front. A few words I want to say. It's actually more than a few words. I want to read Mr. Glass's accomplishments. He was elected in Alexander County Board of Education, and he served from 1972 to 1976, 2 years as chairman. He served on the Alexander County Board of Commissioners from 1986 to 1990, and then 90 to 94. 12 years as commissioner, 3 years as chairman. He's served on the County Board of Health for 12 years, Board of Equalization Review for 12 years, County EMS Board, Regional EMS Board. He chaired the 150th Centennial Celebration in 1997. He chaired the introduction to Alexander County History Book, which is currently on sale. And that was introduced in 1990, by the way. He was served on the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, 2 terms on the Board of Directors. He was elected second vice president of North Carolina Association of County Commissioners in 1990. He was elected president of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners in 1992. He served on the statewide education committee. He served on the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Insurance Trustees, 2 years as chairman. He was chosen as the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Outstanding County Commissioner in 1996. His term ended in 1998. He's an active in the North Carolina Poultry Federation. He was chairman from 2000 to 2001. He originated Sugarloaf Volunteer Fire Department in 1975, and he's currently vice chairman of the board of directors. His family includes, of course, Tam, Bobby, his wife, his brother Charles, and his grandson Cole, who is here. So he has done a plethora of things, and he's been an asset to the state and to the county, and it's my pleasure to call him a friend also. If you have a few words you'd like to say, please do.
Well, I want to thank you, Board of Commissioners. I appreciate this very much. It's a great honor that you would choose a former peer. It's very humbling that the board does this for me. It's humbling in several ways. I was there one time. I remember I read this key to the county to other people, and I can't remember what I used to remember, so let me make a couple notes here. Our citizens of this county chose me 6 times to be in elected office. That, to me, is the most humbling thing I've done, and it was a great honor. I want to thank my wife and my family for supporting me for those 20 years in public service, but the last 12 years as a Board of Commissioners. If I had it to do over, something for each of y'all to ponder, would I do it different from what I did in 12 years? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think I'd learn to say no more, but now we're all engaged in something very precious to me. He didn't read that I'm still chairing the Farmland Preservation Committee here in the county. I think it's about 21 years we've been doing this. We are engaged in a struggle to save the farms. Not just in North Carolina, but not just in Alexander County, but North Carolina, all over this country. I urge you to do whatever you can to help whoever replaces me in that position. It's a very, very responsible position, and it's what makes our county beautiful, is the farms. It's precious to me. I want to tell you the fastest 2 years of my life was when I was a second vice president of the association and president. I had never dreamed that 365 days could go as fast as they did. I wasn't really prepared for it, as I did not serve as third, and I did not serve as first vice president. I went from second to president. Therefore, my time was short anyway, but it's precious to me. It's a great honor. It's a great honor to be elected by the citizens of the county, and I appreciate this more than you'll ever know.
Thank you very much.
Tim, I can speak to the fact of serving on the association board and having served there for 2 years. That was the fastest 2 years I've ever served on a board. Seemed like bang, you were there, and the next day you were gone. And I will agree that the president and the vice president of the Association of County Commissioners in North Carolina, it's a very important role, and it's one that has a tremendous amount of influence on our state government. And it's through that leadership that counties are able to do the things they're able to do and convince the legislature to do some things that need to be done. And it was then, it is now, still a very vital role as that North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. A lot of good information and a lot of good support for the counties come out of that association. And I commend you for serving on that board. That's a tremendous challenge, and it's one that I have watched over the years, different people that have served, and that does a lot for the local community, more than what most people realize when you serve on that board. So congratulations on everything that you've done. You've been an outstanding citizen.
Tim, I apologize for leaving out the comments about the Farmland Preservation Board, but there was so much on here to read, I just skipped over that. Michael, would you mind getting a picture of the family together with that plaque? Y'all can stand up and make sure you get the county seal behind you.
If you could stand inside of the podium.
If I may add one more comment, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Glass's son, Andy, couldn't be here tonight, and I empathize with what he is enduring. I asked him why he wasn't here, and he said he is suffering from kidney stones. And I can attest, having done the same thing a month ago, that it's not a pleasant experience. So we will excuse him for not being here tonight.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Tim. You've done a lot for the county. We appreciate it.
I share his admiration and concern for the farmlands. I'm on that board too. And Tim, that's near and dear to his heart and mine. It's a good thing for this county.
And we have another presentation tonight. I'd like to ask Mr. Matt Cooksey with Habitat for Humanity, who has a special presentation. Mr. Cooksey?
Thank you. It's kind of in reverse when sometimes we recognize and reach out the opposite way, but recently we did the July 4th celebration on the July 5th day, but it was the first time. It was difficult, and it wasn't easy, and so I'm going to tell a little quick story, though. Details often get lost when you're doing it. So I started getting in a panic as we got closer and closer to the end, and I ran down to see Russell. So Russell, this is, you're going to get embarrassed in a second. So I ran down to his office and wanted to make sure everything was set for the fireworks, and he wasn't in, and I was a little bit agitated, and I kept saying, well, can I talk to him? Is he going to be in soon? Because I just needed to know, and the lady in his office kept saying, everything's all right, and she finally said, why are you so worried about it? And I said, well, I'm the one that's putting it on, paying the check, bringing the check out, and everything, and I don't really have had anything to do with it. And she smiled, and she said, if that's what's bothering you, it's okay. We've got it completely taken care of, and it's fine. So Russell, if you could come up for a second, I've got something. It's not really to you, but I'm going to let you accept it. Often when we do things, a lot of negativity comes out when something goes wrong, and a lot of people point fingers at governmental figures and stuff and say, this person came out, this inspector was difficult. And in my 13 years, I'm getting close to 13 years here in the county, I can't really say that. The inspectors have been fantastic. When I go over to the landfill, the lady at the landfill is fantastic to work with. Everything I do has usually been fantastic to work with. And Russell, I know you probably get a lot of hassle from people because you're telling them things like, you got to have another smoke detector, you got to have this or that, or when you work with them. But you were absolutely wonderful to work with. And so Habitat would like to give to the Firemen's Fund $200 out of that festival, because we appreciate all the work that the people did and the unseen thing and the fire trucks showing up and the ambulance. And I know we put a lot of stress on your organization at times, and people forget to say thanks, and I just want to say thanks.
Well, Matt, I can tell you I certainly appreciate this, and I'm happy to accept this on behalf of the Taylorsville Fire Department Fund. Taylorsville was a tremendous supporter of the 5th of July celebration, and I do the same thing you do. I go ask Alicia in my office, and when she says it's taken care of, I quit worrying about it.
Well, I didn't know that. She kept saying, it's okay. Now I know. This year I'll be better.
Thank you, sir. And I would like to say, while I'm standing here, appreciation to all of our volunteers, not just Taylorsville, but this check is for the Taylorsville Firemen's Fund, but all of our volunteers that come out and support us weekend after weekend. They're great folks. They serve our community well, so we can't ever say enough about our volunteers, but thank you for the recognition. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
I was told to fix this while I was up here.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Commissioner's Report. Does any commissioner have anything they'd like to report on at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have a letter I'd like to read. This is a letter that was written by the commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 5466 here in Taylorsville. The commander is John Maddy. This particular copy that I have that I'm reading from was written and addressed to Virginia Fox, our representative in this area, in this congressional district. He also sent a copy to each U.S. representative in North Carolina and both of the United States senators in North Carolina. And it's timely to me, the contents of this letter, and once I read it, you'll understand why. Because of things that are happening in the world, and also things that are happening to the military, and also what's happening to people who have served in the military and their health care. So I'm going to read the body of the letter, and it's dated August 8th, 2014, and it's addressed to Honorable Virginia Fox, United States House of Representatives, and the address is noted here. As members of a veterans support group, we are sad to learn of the recent Veterans Administration actions that led to denied or delayed needed health care. The actions of those that contributed the systematic and deliberate efforts to deny veterans care must be corrected immediately. We support the recent temporary efforts to address these problems. However, we are now learning that many experienced and professional active duty military personnel are being forced to leave the military due to reorganization and budget issues. Veterans of foreign war members feel that the method of eliminating seasoned officers and enlisted personnel is primarily due to an effort to cut costs by eliminating the positions that command the greatest pay and benefits at the risk of placing our military in an undesirable ability to respond to national security threats that are seemingly becoming more and more prominent around the world. And I'm adding this as a parenthetical comment. All you have to do is watch the news every night to see that this, and of course 9/11 is coming up on Thursday, but ISIS and Al-Qaeda are more active now than they've ever been. And the threat is a lot of United States citizens are leaving the United States to go fight in Syria and in Iraq for those terrorist organizations. Our enemies see these actions as a weakness, back to the letter, as a weakness they can exploit. Indeed, we are becoming a paper tiger, either unwilling or unable to defend our nation by reducing military effectiveness. We urgently request any efforts you or your organization can provide to not only stop the brain drain, but to also strengthen our military. Send a message to our professional military leadership and aspiring young men and women that our nation will support them in all areas and expectations. Let's not let our desire to economize destroy the morale and effectiveness of our military. And concurring in this letter is Chris Knowlton, who is the commander of the DAV, Chapter 84, which is Disabled American Veterans here in Alexander County, and Michael Annis, who is commander of American Legion Post 170, that I am a member of here in Alexander County. So, number one, we ought to be proud of our military, and we need to support our military. And just one thing that relates it to Alexander County, there are about 2,800 former servicemen that are living in Alexander County today, which is not quite 10% of the population, but there are a lot of veterans in this county. And again, my belief is, without editorializing anymore, this country is a great threat, probably the greatest threat we've had since 9/11. So we need to support our military. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I got two very short comments. One is I want to thank the support from the town of Taylorsville, the Taylorsville Rescue, EMS, the Sheriff's Department, and Emergency Management for the governor's run that we had on Labor Day weekend. I believe it shall be named or renamed the Freddie Barkley Run after this weekend. I think it's going to be moved to a different date, but thanks for everyone who came out and ran and supported that. Also, this is National Preparedness Month. As a professor of Homeland Security and Disaster Management, one of the things that we try to ingrain in our population, the practitioner population, is to encourage the use of what we call 72-hour kits. Disaster management is easier when the citizens are involved in the process, and if they can handle themselves for at least 72 hours, it really takes a lot of strain and burden off the emergency management folks, the first responders, the NGOs such as Red Cross. And what we talk about when we say a 72-hour kit, that was a nice example that was displayed during the fair that indicated some basic needs. And what we're looking at here is some food, a little bit of non-perishable food that can be prepared without heat, water, flashlights, simple, basic disaster preparedness products is really kind of imperative, although not required, but certainly advantageous if the citizens of the county took the time to prepare these kits for themselves in case of a natural disaster such as a storm, a long-term power outage, or something like that. It isn't meant to say that you're on. What it is, it takes some burden off the public safety agencies. You can look at the county website. I believe we have in the emergency management column. Russell, am I correct? We have a list there of suggested items, and the readync.org, which is the North Carolina Emergency Preparedness website for the citizens.
Thank you, gentlemen. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to mention one thing. This kind of relates to the reevaluation of the property taxes. I get a newsletter from it's Market Edge. The president is Dale Akins. They're based in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they track building permit data for parts of Indiana, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia. And they break it down by region, then by county. And so I thought this was interesting. In Alexander County, our single-family residential building permit data, 2012 compared to 2011, we were up 13.8%. Last year, compared to 2012, building permits were up 51.5%. And this year, year-to-date versus 2013, we're up 38.1%. And the Hickory region overall, year-to-date, is up 13.2%. That includes Alexander, Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, Cleveland, and Wilkes counties. Charlotte region is down 2.9% year-to-date. And looking at the Hickory region for commercial permit data, it's also on track to beat last year's numbers. Well, why is that important? Well, real estate sales give you a snapshot of today, what's happening today. Building permit data actually gives you a snapshot of what's happening in the future. So we're up 38.1% in Alexander County for building permits pulled for single-family residential units. So that's a good indicator that the real estate market has stabilized and is actually picking up again, especially after last year we were up over 50%. So it's a good indicator that our real estate market's doing very well.
Very good. Anyone else have anything? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you have your agenda before you. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the exception of item number 3. Item number 3 on the agenda will be postponed until a later date. All other items will remain the same.
I make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Number 2 is not. It's still on.
Just number
Yes, ma'am.
3.
Just number 2 is still on. Number 3 has been postponed.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Any other comments? All those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise. The motion carries. Thank you very much. The first item on the agenda tonight is the public comment. The first meeting of each month, we allow people to have the opportunity to speak. We set aside 15 minutes has been established for this public comment at the beginning of the regular meeting. Each speaker is allowed to speak for 3 minutes, and also that they are required to call the clerk to the board prior to the meeting to have their name placed on the list so that they will be able to speak. And at this time, we have one person who has signed up to speak, and that is Judy Kaywood.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I am Judy Kaywood, and I'm representing the Bethlehem Community Development Association. I would like to invite you, as well as the public, to attend Bethlehem Day, which will be Saturday, September the 27th, at our new location. This year's street festival will be located behind the Bethlehem Library, in front of and behind the Bethlehem Library, and at the Shiloh Lutheran Church. The festival will feature a classic car show, live music, arts and craft vendors, and food vendors. There will also be a children's area with free games and free inflatable areas for them to play in. The Lions Club will have their vision van there that will provide free eye exams, and the Ride for Pride tractor and trailer, supported by cargo transportation to honor the veterans and all military personnel, will also be on hand. The time for the event is from 10 to 4, and admission is free to the public. Bethlehem Day is a part of Festival Day in Alexander County in conjunction with the Hidnight Festival being held the same day. We encourage the public to come out and enjoy both events. The profits for Bethlehem Day will be used to support and maintain the Bethlehem Star and the Star Lighting, and also to support the backpack program to help feed the hungry children in Alexander County. Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2 on the agenda tonight, rezoning case 14-4, Owen Opportunity Fund. It's a limited liability corporation. As this is a public hearing, I will call the public hearing into session at this time. And Mr. Seth Harris, County Planner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is rezoning case 14-4, the applicant and property owner being Owen Opportunity Fund, LLC, currently doing business as Old Steel Golf Course. The current zoning district is R20 residential. The proposed district is CR, which is commercial recreational. The current land use is a golf course and a restaurant. Proposed uses are the same with the addition of a distillery, which would require an additional conditional use permit. The property is located at Old Steel Golf Course, which is in the Oliver's Landing subdivision. The rezoning area consists of 1.48 acres surrounding the clubhouse. All land uses within 100 feet are residential, and all zoning districts within 100 feet are R20. A little bit of background on the property. Owen Opportunity Fund purchased the subject property in 2013. The owners are currently operating the golf course at Oliver's Landing subdivision. Also in operation are a restaurant and pro shop located in the golf course clubhouse. The owners wish to add a distillery in the lower section of the clubhouse. A distillery must be federally licensed and approved by the North Carolina ABC Commission before production can begin at this site. So let's talk a little bit about small-scale rezoning or the spot zoning request. The North Carolina courts have defined spot zoning as the property being completely surrounded by a zoning district that is considerably different from the requested district. The courts have also decided that spot zoning is invalid or illegal unless there is a clear, reasonable basis for treating the singled-out property differently from adjacent land. For any request involving spot zoning, the boards must address 2 questions. First, did the zoning activity in the case constitute spot zoning, as our courts had defined that term? And second, if it does meet that definition, did the zoning authority make a clear showing of a reasonable basis for the zoning? That clear, reasonable basis is determined by reviewing 4 factors: the size of the tract of land, the compatibility of the disputed zoning action with an existing comprehensive plan, the benefits and detriments resulting from the zoning action for the petitioning property owner, neighbors, and surrounding community, and finally, the relationship between the uses envisioned under the new zoning and the current uses of adjacent land. So first, we'll look at the size of the property, which is 1.488 acres. A plat map is attached in your packet there if you wish to see the boundary of that. We'll next look at the compatibility of the disputed zoning action with an existing comprehensive plan. First, we'll look at the zoning ordinance, which we have a definition of the R20 district, which is primarily for single-family residential use, as opposed to the commercial recreational district, which is established to provide suitable locations for commercial activities, including leisure, entertainment, lodging, and dining-type facilities. 2008 comprehensive plan does show the proposed future use of the area as being parks and open space. The next factor is looking at the benefits and detriments resulting from the zoning action for the petitioning property owner, neighbors, and surrounding community. The board must determine what impact the rezoning will have upon the adjacent property owners and the surrounding community. The benefits of the rezoning should outweigh any potential inconvenience or harm to the community. Finally, the relationship between the uses envisioned under the new zoning and the current uses of adjacent land. The existing golf course and associated uses have coexisted with the surrounding neighborhood since its inception. The uses allowed in the new zoning district are consistent with those usually associated with a leisure destination. Please note that all the uses allowed in that commercial recreational district should be considered, not only the use for which the applicant is applying. Per our usual practice, letters were sent by first-class mail to property owners within 100 feet of the parcel. A sign was posted on the property and an ad was placed in the Taylorsville Times. Calls have been received mainly regarding the use of the distillery, not really questioning the rezoning of the property, but more concerned about the distillery use. Staff does recommend approval of the request due to the following. Current uses existed prior to the adoption of countywide zoning, and the request allows for the continuance of the existing use and for the addition of uses that would help to establish a neighborhood center. Planning and Zoning Commission met on July 10th to review this request and did unanimously recommend approval based upon the following facts. They felt the request was consistent with the 2008 comprehensive plan. The benefits for the surrounding community and neighborhood outweighed any perceived detriments. The existence of the current uses existed prior to countywide zoning, and the proposed use would enhance and promote the existing uses. Please keep in mind when you're making your motion that you must include the fact that it meets all the different 4 guidelines in your motion, if you would, please. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Seth, I have one question. In fact, I know the answer to it, but I want to make sure that people are here, people listening and watching understand if this rezoning was approved and the distillery was approved. Comments have been made in previous sessions by some of the people that have spoken about the distillery. They would not want to view the distillery from their house. It is my understanding the distillery is going to be in the basement of the clubhouse. Is that not correct?
Correct, sir. Yes, sir.
So it'd be hard for someone to stand in their yard and see the distillery.
Right, that's what I understand, yes.
So basically, you're able to see the basement of the clubhouse now. Nothing's changing. It's just,
Right.
okay.
As far as I understand, all the workings of the distillery would be inside the lower level.
Okay.
Seth, this parcel was already a golf clubhouse before the countywide zoning,
Correct, yes, sir.
and it was R20. So
Correct.
this was really just a natural progression to make it CR as it should be in the first place,
Right,
correct?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That
Yeah.
allows for that restaurant use and the clubhouse. Any other use is really allowed in that district.
Can you, Seth, can you explain, because I don't really understand this, why the Alexander County Comprehensive Plan would show the proposed future use of the area as parks and open space?
That was a really broad classification. They applied it to several different areas, including like the Barrett's Mountain area, Rocky Face, that sort of thing. So because it is a large open space, I'm assuming they kind of saw that as recreational opportunity also. Both golf courses in the county are.
Both are labeled as that?
Yes, sir,
Okay.
are labeled as that, yes.
And did you say that the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approved passing this?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay.
Any other questions? As this is a public hearing, anyone in the audience who has anything that they'd wish to contribute or any questions they'd like to ask concerning this rezoning issue has the opportunity to do so at this time. Any other commissioners have anything? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of closing the public hearing indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the rezoning case 14-4.
I second.
Excuse me, and
Yeah, we need to add that.
when you have to, when you make the motion concerning this, you have to state the reasons why you would like to have it approved. They have to be stated in there as in the recommendations, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations, if you would, please.
Okay. According to the Planning and Zoning Board recommendations, that it was unanimous.
I second.
Mr. Chair, could I amend?
Excuse me.
I know we have a vote.
We have
on
a
that.
motion on the floor and a
Yeah.
second. However, based on the way the motion has been made, it needs to be made in a different sense.
Yeah.
And
Can you withdraw your motion?
we should withdraw your
Okay, I
motion.
withdraw the motion.
Thank you.
I withdraw my second.
Thank you very much.
It's a
Can I make the
parliamentary
motion?
issue.
It's a parliamentary issue is all it is. That is
Yeah.
correct. I mean, it's just a policy of which the way you have to make the motion, and it has to include the procedure as such as it is applies to the recommendation of the zoning board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve rezoning case 14-4. And the reason that this meets the standards of small-scale rezoning is, according to Planning and Zoning Commission, number one, it meets the consistency with the 2008 comprehensive plan. Number two, benefits for the surrounding neighborhood outweighed any perceived detriments, including the creation of a new neighborhood center. And number three, the existence of the current uses existed prior to countywide zoning, and the proposed use would enhance and promote the existing uses. So I think that this does meet the definition of showing a reasonable basis for rezoning.
I
Make that in
second.
form of a motion.
I second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. All those opposed likewise. The motion carries 4-1. Item number 4 on the agenda tonight will be the approval of the 2015 schedule of values. This time I'd call on Mr. Guy Curley, Tax Administrator and Collector for the County of Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners. I have with me again tonight Mr. Ron McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy represents Tyler Technology, who is a company that we're currently contracting with to aid us in our 2015 revaluation of property. On August the 4th, I think it was, we presented to you the 2015 appraisal manual and schedule of values as is dictated to us by North Carolina General Statute. On August the 18th, we held a public hearing, once again, as dictated by North Carolina's general statutes. At that public hearing, we had 3 citizens of the county present, basically gathering information as best I understood those folks. And now, North Carolina law requires that you adopt this schedule of value. And we are here tonight to present it to you for adoption if it meets your approval. I asked Mr. McCarthy if he had anything he'd like to say, and he chose not to.
Chose not to? You think he spoke to us enough?
Guy, would you mind, Mr. Curley, would you mind doing the audience and the folks listening and watching at home what the schedule of values means in as few words?
Give you a short synopsis of what basically the schedule of values is a guideline and also a manual, as we call it, to talk about the process. It gives information as to how we generalize what we call neighborhoods in the county in terms of classification. It gives instructions as how property can be graded, has lots of examples of, lots of photos of property and how they are, what grade they are considered as a guideline for the folks who are actually out visiting property and visited parcels. Now, I'd like for Ron to speak to that since he's one of the people instrumental in drawing it up, if he would do that.
The schedules are tied in with the computer system, the software in the computer system. If you get a copy of your property card, you should be able to refer to the schedules and determine how the value was arrived at step by step. So the three tie together, the property card, the schedules, and the computer system.
If you don't mind, and I'm not asking you to bring it down a level, but I really am,
Okay.
is what you're telling us, and Guy too, is you arrive at the value of a property based on what the comparable properties that are similar in type and construction of that, let's say parcel A or a house A that looks and is built the same way. Is that not?
Yes, sir.
What you're doing?
There are three approaches. There's a market approach or comparable sales approach, which what you're referring to. We look at properties that have sold and compare, if you will, your property to the ones that have sold and make adjustments based on characteristics. There's an income approach to value that looks at rental income that property could generate. If an investor would invest in the property, he's going to want a return on the property and of the property. And then there's a cost approach, which is the basis for our starting point for all appraisals, because we have to value the land first. Then we add the value of the improvements. Then we compare those improvements to properties that have sold or properties we have income information on.
And, Mr. Curl, I believe you said this is a statewide statute. This is the way property values are arrived at.
Schedule of values is not statewide, the process.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
This is dictated by North Carolina General Statute that is presented, it's made, these have been advertised to be available in our office and in the county administration office for the last month. Anybody in the county is more than willing, or more than invited to come in and look at this schedule of values if they choose to do that. And every step of the process is dictated by North Carolina General Statute.
And last question, and I think I asked the same question before. When do you anticipate the reevaluation to be completed? I know you said you'd finish basically most of the county except lakefront properties. Is that still kind of where we are?
We're currently reviewing the lakefront, and we're going to review the commercial properties last. Notice is going to go out in January.
We anticipate each property owner will get a notice of their new value, possibly the end of December, more than likely the 1st of January. And that will tell them what their new value will be for taxation beginning January, or beginning 2015.
And translating that, what their property taxes are.
What their value
What
is.
the value is.
No, you won't know.
Board will set the rate.
Okay, when would we know, Mr. Chairman, we or the citizens of Alexander County know what the taxes are per,
The tax rate will be set in June of 2015,
okay?
prior to the fiscal year, July 1, 2015, July 2016.
Okay.
That bill will then be mailed in August of 2015.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that the folks that are listening, watching here, understand the process.
Two, if I might add, the schedule of values allows for some flexibility so that property can be graded, for example, two side-by-side homes that are very similar, one in poor condition, one in extremely good condition. This schedule of values allows for some flexibility because the person evaluating those property can apply a grade, which in turn affects the final value. So there is some flexibility allowed in this for folks who are analyzing property.
Mr. Curley, obviously, if someone doesn't agree with the amount that's been set, they have some sort of remedy.
There are several steps of appeal which are outlined in their notice of value. There's what is known as an informal appeal, where that person can either by phone or by appointment talk to the folks who actually did the partial visits. If they're they're not satisfied with the outcome of that, then they can appeal to the county's Board of Equalization and Review, which is held every year. And then if they're not satisfied with the outcome of that, they ultimately can appeal to the North Carolina Property Tax Commission in Raleigh. So there are 3 levels of appeal, and that will all be outlined in that.
Very good.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Any other questions? There being none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the schedule of values for 2015.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the 2015 schedule of values as presented to us in the August 3rd meeting. 3rd or 4th, August 4th meeting.
Motion's made. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion's made and second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Economic Development Update. Mr. David Eisenhower, Alexander County Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the opportunity, Commissioners, to be on the agenda tonight to give you a general update on some economic development activities, some past activities, as well as some future activities. First, on behalf of the EDC Board, I want to thank this board for the support you've given to economic development over the years, both financial support and moral support. Of course, the EDC Board is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, so we are, or the board is legally separate from Alexander County, but of course very closely aligned with Alexander County and with the goals and the mission of county government, of course. And without the support of commissioners, the EDC board could not function and we would not be here talking about the things that we're going to talk about tonight. So in light of that, the EDC board has undergone a couple of changes with respect to who serves on the board. I wanted to give you a quick update of who the members of the board are. At the last meeting in July, the board voted to expand membership to 7 members. The current bylaws for the EDC only allow up to 7 members. So currently, the voting members consist of Andrew Jackson of Community One Bank. He serves as our president. Rick French, county manager, is vice president of the board. Doug Caudle of Piedmont Fiberglass is secretary. The other voting members of the board are Ryan Mayberry, county commissioner, Renee Mead with Alexander County School System, Tim Holder with Energy United Electric Corporation, and Dell Starnes with Taylor King Furniture. And of course, staff is myself and Gary Herman, Small Business Development Coordinator. A couple of the 2 main areas that I want to discuss with you tonight involve retail issues and manufacturing issues. Of course, with the closing in recent years of the Chamber of Commerce, the EDC board attempted to fill some of the void left behind by the closing of the chamber. And one of the ways we did that, starting that effort, was creation of the website grant program. You've heard a little bit about this. We've been doing this for about 3 years, and each year it's a small grant, but so far we've been able to help 15 businesses with websites for their establishments, and they did not have websites before, and we still have those operating. I think that's been a good program. In today's world, I think if you operate a business, you need a website, and we were somewhat surprised to find that a lot of businesses in Alexander County do not have websites. So that's an ongoing program that we've done each year and hope to continue with that program. Of course, you've seen a lot recently with the Buy Local effort, which was initially started by the Citizens for Future of Alexander County, and we kind of picked up with that program, and that's really been the focus for Gary Herman, our small business coordinator, since he's come on board, and he's done a great job with that. We've developed our Facebook page, and he is constantly working social media. For those of you who are on social media much, you will see a lot about what's going on with local businesses. Gary, along with Chad Ritchie, Alexander County government, have been working on a number of videos. They go out and visit with local businesses to spotlight what's going on with local businesses, let people know what local businesses have to offer. And that program has actually evolved into a larger program called Alexander County Now, which is a longer program that also includes the business spotlights, but they've filmed about 30 of these segments with local businesses, and I think they've been pretty popular with, certainly with the businesses. It's all free service that we're offering to businesses in Alexander County. We've also just announced another big program, and we literally call it the big program. It's the Building Improvement Grant Program that the EDC Board approved recently, and the intent there was to give small businesses in the county an opportunity to make improvements from the appearance standpoint, exterior improvements to their buildings. We're offering grants of up to $1,000. These are matching grants, so the business, if they get a $1,000 grant, they'd have to spend another $1,000 of their own money. Grants can be for less, but no more than $1,000 for each business, and we've budgeted up to a total of $5,000 for that. It is an ongoing grant currently, so anybody out there that is interested in that, please contact the EDC office immediately. We've also just announced, in conjunction with the Taylorsville Times, a Reader's Choice contest, I guess you would say, and it's an opportunity for citizens to vote on their favorite businesses in Alexander County across about 90 different categories. So between now and October 10th, we're going to continue to run this program. The forms will be in the Taylorsville Times. They're also online at alexanderedc.org or at the county page at alexandercountync.gov, and you can also find it through Facebook pages of EDC and Alexander County. But so far, that's been received well, and once all the votes are in, that'll give us a chance to make awards to the businesses that are voted most popular, and it'll give us another opportunity to promote those businesses. And again, free of charge to these businesses, and we don't charge anything for anything that we do. So all of these programs that I just mentioned, the website and the big program and the Reader's Choice, kind of led up to what is really to date, I guess, the major program that's been undertaken by the EDC Board, and that is relating to the recruitment of new retail business in Alexander County. At the last meeting, the board agreed to contract with a company called Retail Strategies to assist us in recruiting new retail establishment to Alexander County. This is a 3-year contract with this company, during which they're going to help us do a number of things. They're going to help us identify the primary retail locations in Alexander County and specific sites that are good for retail development. They'll help us develop a database of these properties, help us develop marketing materials for each of these properties, and bigger than any of that, they will help us establish the contact with specific retailers that are in expansion mode and would be at least a suitable match for Alexander County. And not just the company themselves, but people within these companies that might be suitable for Alexander County. As I said, this is a brand-new effort. The ink is barely dry on the contract, as they say. We expect for the next 3 to 4 months is a research period where Retail Strategies will be helping us develop this plan. They will come and do some visits to Alexander County. They do blind visits as well as scheduled visits with us. They'll come and they'll take private tours themselves of Alexander County. They'll just ride the roads and they'll look at sites. They'll look at our businesses, which helps them develop an unbiased opinion of what retail is and can be in Alexander County. So I expect in about 90 to 120 days that we will be coming back to you with a proposed strategic plan for retail development in Alexander County. And I think this is going to be an exciting time. It's something we've talked about a long time for the need to develop retail in Alexander County. And I know you guys are fully aware of what retail and sales taxes does for Alexander County. But there's even more to it than that. I mean, I think it's a very important part of just quality of life in Alexander County. And I personally am looking forward to seeing how this project turns out. The other issue, of course, is related to manufacturing in Alexander County, and that's always been kind of the core mission for economic development in this county is manufacturing support for existing industry as well as the recruitment of new industries. As far as those who are already here, we've tried throughout the years to basically serve as a clearinghouse for existing industries for whatever issues they may have. I've always wanted them to feel comfortable to come to me and, ask for help for whatever, and I'll do what I can. But our primary work with existing industries over the years has been, as you know, through different types of grant programs. We've worked water, sewer, and I'm currently trying to resolve a natural gas issue for a couple of industries. Our most successful efforts have been in the realm of building renovation grants, as you also know, and the most recent one that we completed was with Craftmaster, and I won't beat that one to death, but there have been a number of other of those building renovation grants over the years. In fact, in the past 4 years or so, we have been awarded close to $1 million for Alexander County businesses for building renovation. And those grants not only renovate a building, but they're directly tied to job creation. So anytime we're getting money for building renovation, there are jobs, new jobs, tied to that money. And I think it's been a very, very successful program. I met with 2 local companies just in the last week to talk about additional building renovation grants in the coming months. So we're looking at probably the November timeframe to put in another and possibly 2 more building renovation grants for Alexander County businesses. The EDC also has its own little revolving loan pool of money that came from the state of North Carolina many years ago. So over the last years, we have loaned more than $325,000 to local businesses who are making improvements and are creating jobs. And of course, as the name implies, this is revolving money. So this is money that's being reloaned over and over and over to local businesses. And finally, for existing industries, and of course, this is all with your help, we've been able to work with them for industrial development incentive grants, which is based on our property tax collections, and those grants have totaled approximately $900,000. In reference to new industry and recruiting new industry in Alexander County, there are a number of issues that always come into play. Workforce is one of those, and commissioners have done a great job in workforce issue with the new building that you've purchased on the Hill and with the grants that we're working on for developing that training center with the assistance of CVCC. The issue of workforce and training for workforce has been addressed. Quality of life is another issue, and things like Rocky Face Park and even this retail study that we're working on will add to quality of life. We have a great quality of life here anyway. Other issues like housing and water, sewer, electricity, access, those things are reasonably sufficient in Alexander County to serve to recruit new industry. The one issue that is not being currently addressed is the issue of product. And when I say product, I'm talking about space for a new industry to come into Alexander County, a building. That is the one issue where we are severely hurting, and in my opinion, it is the number one issue in terms of recruiting any new industry into Alexander County. We currently just do not have a building that would be of great interest to what I would term a major manufacturing company. We don't have buildings of sufficient size, nor do we have buildings of sufficient ceiling height. And unfortunately, there's only a few ways to get these buildings. One is the closure of an existing business, and that's obviously not what we want. The other ways are for industries to come in, build from the ground up. And that's what we're looking at, although the issue is that companies don't tend to do that these days. According to the Charlotte Regional Partnership and Department of Commerce, still report that roughly 70% of companies that are looking to expand are looking for a building. That includes a building that is completely built out, and that includes speculative buildings. So I have always been a proponent of a speculative building, and by that I just simply mean a shell building. Speculative or shell, basically interchangeable words, but a speculative building is basically 4 walls, ceiling, and usually a dirt floor, minimum inside, just enough electricity for lighting. But what that does is that gives an industry a head start on building in a county. It gives them something to look at and something to visualize. It's very difficult, and really it just rarely happens that companies want to come and visit and look at a bare piece of ground. Now, not to say that it doesn't happen, because it does, but having a building or a spec building in your county puts you way ahead of the game in terms of recruiting companies to your county. And we're starting to see a number of these speculative buildings pop up in other counties, and economic development, even though we support regional efforts, it's still a competition between counties. And when other counties have more suitable buildings than what we have, it puts us, actually it doesn't, we're not even in the game when it comes to that issue. So having said all that about spec building, I would just reiterate that, again, it is the thing that we have to solve in this county. And having said that, I will end with some encouragement along those lines. I have met within the last 2 weeks with an organization that is interested and has sincere interest in a spec building in Alexander County. We've met a couple of times. We've visited a spec building in another county just to see what is involved in that particular builder's efforts. I think if we can work out some financial issues, that it can happen. I hope to be coming back to you pretty soon with more discussion about that issue. So I've taken about 15 minutes of your time. I think there are significant things happening in economic development. Again, I appreciate the support this board's given me over the years, and I will be glad to answer any questions that you have about any of these issues.
Mr. Eisenhower, you're talking about the spec building. I was at a meeting with the Council of Governments a couple of weeks ago over in Claremont, North Carolina, at the fire department, and that's where we held our quarterly meeting at the time. And the building you're speaking of, which I can sort of read right when you're speaking, that building was built in conjunction with the county government, with a local contractor, with the city, and with the county economic development people. Those people had gone in together to build this building. And when they did this, the spec building was built with the primary purpose that whatever industry came in there, they were wanting it to come in there with a little bit higher wage than anybody else did. And they have put limits and some very strict guidelines on who they're going to allow to have that building. And it was a great cooperation between the entities in that county, along with a major contractor that wanted to step up to the plate and wanted to see something happen. And they had the tools in place and the foresight to make that happen. Because the buildings you're speaking of, when you start speaking of spec buildings, is the fact that no one wants the 10, 12-foot ceilings now. They want the 20-foot ceilings, and they want it so that they can adapt to the business that they have, which is a great thing, that they've done there. And I commend them for it and everybody working together to make it happen. I hope you'll continue to have those meetings with these folks and see if there's some way that we can have a spec building in this county. Because I agree with you, it's like going out and looking for a home. And it's one thing to look at house plans on a piece of paper and say, oh, that looks nice, I'd really like to have it. But and I know if you have a nice development and an area where people can go look at the house and it's already there, then they're more apt to come than they are to come in here and say, well, I'm going to build me a house there. So I think having that spec building is a very large part of the factor of economic development. I do agree with you. And I hope that there's some way that in working with all these people that you can find some way to possibly make that happen in a group effort.
I hope so too.
David, maybe a couple comments and then a question. I know in our industrial park, we have a site that has already been graded for a spec building. So we've got that step out of the way. and it's a fairly large, what is the size of that piece of ground on Old 90?
25 acres, the one you're speaking of.
25 acres?
Yes.
Okay. Now, and I know, I'm asking this question, I think I know some of the reasons myself, but again, I like for people in the audience and people at home and people on TV to understand, it's always stark to me, and very seldom do I drive down old Highway 90 anymore. It's always 64 that I go to Statesville. But if you drive down Highway 90, one of the great assets that we still have in Alexander County is the railroad. But what is stark in contrast is when you get from, let's say from Iredell County into Iredell County, the demarcation point between Iredell County and Alexander County, when you get into Iredell County, you see a lot of industries built. But when you come back into Alexander County along the railroad track, you don't see that density, for lack of a better term. And again, this is for edification. It will help me to understand, and I think I understand, but why is it that Iredell County has more concentration along Alexander County Railroad than Alexander County does? And I know it relates to, if I may continue for a moment, their tax base versus our tax base, and like the chairman was saying, having the ability to help finance a spec building. But in your opinion, since you've been involved in economic development, what are the main detractors in Alexander County that prevent us from having the same density along our Alexander County Railroad that Iredell County has?
Well, I think there are probably a number of reasons. You just provided one of them, of course, with the finances possibly from Iredell County. Some of it is just simply the relationship of Iredell County sites to the interstate. There are some industries that have a very defined boundary of how far away from an interstate they will be. So that does play into it there as well. Some of it is just the suitability of the land. When you get closer down that way, it seems like there are just simply better sites to start with in some instances. I don't think there's any real reason that we can't have that. I think some of it is that they have been more proactive with developing sites and providing sites water and sewer. The railroad is a very critical economic development tool for us, and I think without the railroad, we wouldn't have at least one of the major industries, and well, several of the major industries that we have now would not be here if it weren't for the railroad. So I guess to just put an exclamation on your question, there's no reason we can't have that. It's just we're behind the curve in developing the infrastructure to support it.
They've had water and sewer and probably natural gas in place a lot longer than we have.
Yeah.
Plus, none of these industries have been built since the recession. They were all built before.
David, Paragon Films, that was a spec building, was it not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How many jobs have been created there? And they actually had an expansion few years ago. How many jobs have they created out of that?
Well, just to go back to the beginning, that building was a spec building of 40,000 square feet. So when they moved into it, they expanded it a little bit at the time just for office space, but created roughly 25 jobs, and there was $10 million investment. Their expansion a few years ago was 60,000 square feet and another $10 million investment and another 15 to 20 jobs at that time too. So they're close to 50 jobs and about $20 million worth of investment on that site.
Okay.
What
One
are the $20 million investment? The
It's-
building?
Well, building and equipment.
And equipment.
Most of theirs is equipment. very
And we get
expensive.
taxes off of that,
Yes, ma'am.
20 million.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
I wanted to mention the retail strategies contract. That's a 3-year contract, like you had mentioned. I think that's going to be a very good thing for Alexander County. I did want to mention just a couple things about what they do. A little more in depth, I wanted to read a few things off here. They look at business location data. It's ideal for competitive analysis, understanding market opportunities, and evaluating market dynamics. They source that to Dun and Bradstreet. They look at consumer expenditures, included in 18 reports and 1,000 variables. They cover about 95% of household spending. They'll be looking at all that. They look at retail potential, so they'll look at all over Alexander County and take the formulate trade tables, and they cross-tabulate that by store type and merchandise line. So not only do they categorize what you have and what you need, but they help match you with retailers that are looking for what you have and what you need. So I think it'd be a good partnership with them. But I'm very excited about it.
David, I want to follow up on my question I asked about the railroad and the difference between Iredell County and Alexander County. And because I get asked all the time, literally all the time, why aren't you folks on the Board of Commissioners doing more for economic development in the county? In relation to Highway 90, the railroad, what are the major detractors that prevent us from having more economic growth on the old Highway 90 railroad track?
Well, on Old 90, there just aren't any real sites that are developed. In Alexander County, we have the one industrial park that has all the infrastructure to it that is needed. It has water, it has sewer, it has natural gas, and it has rail service, and we have land that is available, land that's owned by the railroad and/or Alexander County and/or the Economic Development Corporation. So that's the only place in Alexander County where all those factors come together in one spot. And if development is going to happen from an industrial standpoint, that is the most likely place for it to happen.
People
And
look
the converse of that is, because we don't have the infrastructure the rest of the way down to the county line, that's
Exactly.
some of the major factors why we cannot
Yes.
entice
Yes.
major businesses to build, because there's plenty of vacant farmland along the railroad track, Stony Point and Hidnight, but the problem is not having the infrastructure to support it. And I just want everybody to understand why, as opposed to the fact that you are not doing anything and we're not doing anything, because it takes a lot of money to invest in that infrastructure, water, sewer, gas, to get it all the way down to Stony Point in the county line. Is that not true?
Absolutely. Basically, $1 million a mile for sewer.
$1 million a mile. So I just wanted the folks to understand that.
And the buildings that we have sitting around that people look at and say, well, you know, there's all these empty buildings around, most of the time it's not conducive to I guess you'd say a high-tech manufacturer or a leading manufacturer. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
They're not big enough.
They're not big enough, they're not laid out correctly, they don't have the right infrastructure.
Right. But David, I'm not pressing you on that. I'm just saying I get that question all the time, and I just want to clarify why.
Well, I hope I answered it. If not, I'll try again.
No, you've given the honest answer, and that's the reason. You know, Mr. French has said this, and Larry, I apologize for taking any more time, and I'll be quiet. But when you have a county that for each penny of tax rate, Alexander County takes in $250,000 in taxes. Whereas in Catawba County, for example, each penny on the tax rate, Mr. French, you keep me honest, takes in about $2.5 million on the tax rate. And Iredell County is about the same, is it not?
Yes, sir.
So we're hurting. I mean, in the dilemma that we have, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm going to be off the board, and there's new board members that are running for the board sitting here tonight that I see, is you can only raise property taxes so high and squeeze the blood out of the turnip so much before you hurt the taxpayers. So we're on the horns of a dilemma would be a kind way of saying it, to get economic development really going in this county, because the money is not there. I've spoken to one of the governor's liaisons that has direct access to the governor, and so is David, about a spec building. And there was no money put in this next year's fiscal budget for counties to apply to the state to build spec buildings. Now, that may change in new session in the legislature, but right now, there's no money there. So what do you do? Unless you raise the tax rate 50 cents. So I made some comments, I had some questions, and I've said enough.
Do you know who does spec buildings really well? China does spec buildings really well. I mean, and Berkey, this is not directed at you, and it's more directed towards the people who have asked you that question, why aren't we doing enough? When is it our job to do everything to get business? I mean, it should be the responsibility of people who want to develop business.
I agree. I mean, I think the private investors that run the business should do more about, I think that's what the point you're making, is to build a building.
Sure.
And build, and put the infrastructure to the buildings that they need.
The point I'm making.
As opposed to looking at granddaddy government to pay for everything. Because granddaddy government is now reaching into our pockets and pulling out lint.
Damn right.
Not money, because we don't have any money. So everybody's coming to us saying, help us, help us, help us, help us, help us. We don't have the money.
Well, David, we'll say thank you for the update. We can sit here and have this conversation all night long. Make sure that you keep the economic development, keep pushing, keep struggling. Good things will happen. Just have to be patient and just try to keep reaching out and doing the things doing. Thank you for the update, and thank you for what y'all do.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, sir. Item number 6 on the agenda, consideration for Alexander County EMS to piggyback contracts for the purchase of one Type 3 ambulance. Doug Gillespie, the interim EMS director. As most of you know, Bradley Earp, who is our EMS director, has been out for quite a while sick. He seems to be recovering some now and getting a little better, and we're really, really glad of that. But in the meantime, Mr. Gillespie has stepped up to the plate and to act as our interim director, and we appreciate that, Doug.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, and thank you for your time tonight. I'm here to bring a proposal to the exception to the formal bidding process. We have been extended the opportunity to follow the piggyback procedure for ambulance purchase through Northeastern emergency vehicles. Wake County has formally bid this ambulance a few months ago, and Northwestern Emergency Vehicles has extended the same price to us. This way, we will still get the same type of ambulance that we've been getting for the last few years. What I'm asking for tonight is for the board to give approval to forego the formal bid process and use the piggyback exception. Also to give permission to proceed with the contract negotiations with Northwestern Emergency Vehicle for the purpose of the Type 3 ambulance.
This is the same process we used last year, is it
Correct,
not?
sir.
Okay, yes.
This is what Section 143 is for.
Yes, sir.
So you're going to save money, and you're going to get the ambulance that you want in the same pattern that you want. Is that correct?
Correct.
And I'll just add a comment too, and I know everybody's tired of hearing me talk, but I went with Bradley the last time he picked up the last new ambulance we had and rode with him, and we went and toured Northwest Emergency Vehicles up in Jefferson. And it is a state-of-the-art facility, and they make a fine product. And like it says in the paper we have here, it's the only company in North Carolina that manufactures those vehicles.
Yes, that would be, not Northwestern, that would be AEV.
Right.
That actually builds the ambulances, and Northwestern is the seller of the ambulances
Right.
for.
Doug, I've always wondered, if you guys have ever had problems with your ambulances before, have those guys come down the mountain to service the ambulances?
Yes, sir, they have come down to the mountain, and we've also took the ambulance up there, which makes it a lot better for our county garage area and stuff. Plus,
They've been real good about
plus we
taking,
can pick up the phone, have the county garage, Daryl and Johnny can pick up the phone at the county garage and say, hey, I've got a problem here, what do you think it is? And they've also been willing to help us for other trucks that we did not purchase from them.
they helped straighten out several of the chassis, if I'm not mistaken, or some of the rough rides on some of the other ambulances before, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
sir, with the air ride suspension and everything, they've actually helped with that.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the piggyback contract.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion's made by, yes, and seconded. I was thinking about the ambulance.
Ryan Mayberry.
Ryan Mayberry, thank you very much. Anyway,
I think that's what he meant.
that's the way it is, man. And, but the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
The notice was, public notice was already sent?
Yes, sir, it was sent, I think, the 27th in your packet that you had. It should be 10 days before.
Right? Yeah. They follow protocol. All right, no other discussion. All those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Item, don't go anywhere. Item number 7, the EMS pilot project. Doug Gillespie, interim EMS director, and also Russell Green, emergency services director. Gentlemen, go ahead.
Good evening. Again, I am here to outline the EMS pilot program proposal that I've worked with, along with my guys at EMS, my employees, and along with Russell Green. Did you hide from me? Proposal is to hire 6 part-time EMT paramedics for 9-hour shifts Monday through Friday. And this would be during peak time. What we're looking at peak time would be anywhere from 6 a.m. to approximately 6 p.m. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. is usually what we have done before, but we are also looking at the process of 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. also. And that would cut out some of our overtime for guys that are actually getting off shift. We could save a little bit of money there. Break one of the 24-hour EMS crews and add the 2 part-time employees to make 2 crews for that 9-hour peak time service. During that 9-hour time frame, Alexander County will have 4 EMS crews on duty compared to just the 3 that we have right now. Station each EMS crew at a fire department, as you'll see. Place 1 crew at Stony Point Fire Department and 1 EMS crew at Wittenberg Fire Department. And I think when we looked at the COG study that was recently done, our response times to those areas are a little bit above average compared to the others in North Carolina. This could resolve that and bring them back to below average and actually help that out a little bit. The cost for the fire departments, working with Russell, we looked at for leasing a fire department is approximately $150 per month per department itself. We look at about a $2,700 total just for the 2 departments for the lease process itself. You'll see on the map where we've located them at. We have Station 1 that is in the middle section there of the Taylorsville section. We would have one at Stony Point Fire Department. We'd have one at Wittenberg Fire Department, and then we'd also have the other truck at Bethlehem Fire Department where it's located normally at this time. By putting them in this location, we can save some wear and tear on the vehicle, and we'll see that in the benefits here in a little bit. Some of the benefits, extra EMS crews during the peak hours. We can provide better service for the citizens of Alexander County and the visitors that come visit Alexander County. We're going to cut cost on the maintenance, wear and tear of the vehicles. We're going to cut cost on fuel of the units to actually have them travel back and forth, what we call standing by. For when 1 truck goes out of county or 2 trucks go out of county, we bring them towards the middle. And also, it will benefit us with management of making sure our employees are properly certified and properly trained itself. The initial startup would be to hire the 6 EMT paramedics for a part-time roster. We right now have 27 part-time employees. Just what you see on top here is just the average cost. 1 employee costs $200 for a uniform, and that's the initial one-time fee. And then yearly, they usually get 1 pair of pants, 1 pair of shirt again.
$591.64 is third-person ride time. This is a standard that we do for EMS. You have to ride 40 hours for each new employee, whether part-time or full-time, to make sure you know the location, make sure you know landmarks, make sure you know how to get to the hospitals. So this is something that's always done. With the uniforms and all, that'll be $791.64. So we look at a total, if we add that to the 6 employee costs, $1,200 for uniforms, $3,549.84 third-person ride time, and then $4,749.84 for a total of those two. When we look at the startup cost, we looked at it from October 6, 2014 to June 30th, 2014. From one employee, the actual pay would be $665.59.5, and basically that is for a 45-hour shift. There will be no overtime, so we won't have to worry about that, and they will be less than their 1,000 hours in a rolling year period, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. For one employee per year is $25,000, or for the 38 weeks is $292.61, and that'll give us a total of $50,585.22. That would be for both part-time employees, or to pay that 45 hours, 5 days a week. So when we look at our correct totals, we look at $1,200 for uniforms, $3,549.84 for third-person ride time for all people, $2,700 for building leases, $50,585.22 for payroll, to give a balance of $58,035.06. The reason why I chose the EMT paramedics is because Alexander County has set a standard of care to have 2 paramedics on duty at all times. We do have 3 employees in our part-time status that's been with us for an extended period of time that are what we call EMT basics. 2 of those are EMT basics, and we have one that's EMT intermediate that's been with us for over 20 years. But our standards for the last few years are we hire paramedics. North Carolina Office of Emergency Medical Services actually has a procedure that we cannot do unless we have 2 paramedics on the truck. With us being without a hospital, that is a procedure that I see that will be with us for a while. Other counties are actually not using it because they do have a hospital 5 to 10 minutes away. We have a hospital 25 to 35 minutes away. In certain areas, it could be even longer. So requiring 2 paramedics on the truck is a standard that we've set, and I think we need to keep. And I think the management aspect of them being our employees will be a little bit better for logistics and be better for us in general. Do you have any questions?
I do. The thing you said was the part-time designation. Are these less than 20 hours a week?
Yes, sir. They will not have any overtime, no benefits, and they will make sure we stay, or we make sure they will stay under the 1,000 hours per rolling year.
Okay. Okay.
Doug, the benefit of having that part-time stable will be the fact that you have some really experienced officers that are probably going to be retiring over the next few years. This will be a stable part-time personnel that you'll be able to draw from for
Most
full-time
definitely.
positions.
We hire as a set a standard probably about 4 or 5 years ago that our full-time is actually hired from our part-time basis. We're in the process of that right now, hiring one. And we see how they work with each other. We see how they work on the patients. And right now, I think I have 7 applications for a new full-time position that we're getting ready to hire. We have lost one, and I'm comfortable with any of the 7.
And Doug, another thing you alluded to was that this, adding these part-time people could possibly cut down on overtime pay that you're paying.
Yes, sir. There would be no overtime for this proposal itself. Now, that's not including that if we have 2 people that call in sick the day before, we might have a part-time person that's normally maybe work over a little overtime. But for the 9-hour shift, no, they would not work any overtime.
That's not really my question. Forget the part-time people that you're proposing. Would it cut down any on the overtime hours that the current workforce has?
For the full-time workforce?
Yes.
No, sir. I don't believe it will, and I might be a little bit wrong on that, might need some help. We automatically get certain amount of overtime for full-time because we work a 24, 72-hour shift.
Commissioner Jennings, the one thing I think it will cut down on, Doug, and I compliment him and his staff, they've done a great job putting this together. The one thing, if he staggers the schedules to when they come in, it will potentially cut down on some of that overtime where people get called at the end of their shift. So I see some potential benefit. It will cut down on some of that. The regular scheduled overtime, no, it won't change that. But where they get called at the end of their shift, I think it will cut down on that some. And Doug touched on the other thing I think is a great savings. By positioning those trucks, there's less wear and tear, there's less fuel. So I think you're going to see some savings there. And I know he's working on some other things to bring in some more money. So I would ask him if he would elaborate on that with picking up some calls that you currently can't pick up.
Okay. We do pick up, Catawba County EMS actually comes into Alexander County and picks up Valley Nursing Center patients. And they'll do a trip to the hospital and then a trip back. And some of the research I've done in the last 3 months from April, May, and June, it was 16 calls that actually came into Alexander County and took them to the hospital, took them to a doctor's office, took them to an x-ray or whatever. And of those 16 calls, 12 of them were return trips. The statistics I looked at could save us about $20,000 or more if we could actually take those trips back into our park. Now, the bad part about that, when you only have 3 trucks, we couldn't do that. If you add that 4th truck, we could possibly add more trips like that to help out.
But that goes back to what Russell is saying. That's a $20,000 savings that could be applied to paying for this $58,000.
Oh, most definitely.
$20,000 worth of revenue.
Yes, it always appealed to the customers that I worked with when I worked with a large telecommunications company. If you could show them a cost justification where a proposal would pay for itself or help pay for itself, that was always a good thing. So that's why I'm focusing in on that.
And it's hard to have the most correct numbers, but like I said, I think it's 20+ thousand.
That's good.
Okay, I've had it said to me this, and I'm afraid that this might be a problem, especially in Stony Point. Well, maybe I shouldn't say just Stony Point. Excuse me. Ambulance service is so expensive, and I have actually had somebody tell me that they did not send their daughter to the hospital in an ambulance. They took them in a car when the ambulance was there because they knew how expensive it was going to be. And they have to pay because they know that they have to pay. But yet, we have so much free service running around that we're not going to make money. There's no way we're going to make money. I mean, are we not operating now in the red a lot?
Most ALS
About
services
50%?
throughout North Carolina operate in the red.
Sure.
BLS services is where you actually start to see money in the black. Just a strict BLS service. If you'll notice our surrounding counties,
Explain BLS.
BLS is basic life support, ALS is advanced life support. I apologize for that. Basic life support, where we go take them to the doctor's office, where we go take them to dialysis, where we take them a scheduled trip. The BLS is going to make your money because you can say that's somewhat of a guaranteed payment. Where
But-
ALS is more of, or advanced life support is an emergency style call. And if insurance or Medicare or other affiliates say that that's not considered emergency to them, they might not pay for it.
Okay, just in the last week, one man was picked up. They was called, they didn't know anything else to do with him. He's just walking along the road. They called 911. They had just took him to Ireland Memorial the night before, and they released him. He come home. They put him right back in the ambulance, and this man was not paying. That's just what I'm getting at. And I know you can't just not pick them up or.
Yes, ma'am,
what
that's
do you
right.
do
We
with
cannot
them?
just pick 'em
But
up.
is there not some service, that could be less expensive than us just running somebody up and down the road like a taxi?
That wouldn't come from the EMS aspect of it, in my opinion.
No, Commissioner Moose, once these gentlemen are dispatched, they have to respond. They've got a requirement to act. And once they show up on the scene, and you're exactly right, there are people out there that abuse the system. but unfortunately, it's not within EMS's power or emergency services powers to put a stop to that.
Right.
You actually implemented a charge a couple of years ago, which was a repeat offender charge, about $50 just for calling EMS out just to help people get up out of the floor or help them get back into bed when they had the means to do that themselves. That was a deterrent to cut down on some of that, but it'll never take care of the problem. There's always going to be people out there that abuse this system. And in some cases, it does seem like a taxi cab, but they can't refuse to serve the citizen. And unfortunately, that's part of the county budget. That's part of the
I
cost.
didn't mean for you to do that, but am I not seeing this correctly, that just like the woman that did not send her daughter in the ambulance because she knew she had to pay the bill, because she owned something and she had insurance? And I know how expensive it is. I've been in 3 this year, and they're very expensive. And these other people do not pay.
There's a lot of people out there that receive an EMS bill that do not pay it. We have a transient population in the apple orchards, and when they receive an ambulance bill, a lot of times those get returned because we don't have the solid address. Unfortunately, that's just one of the costs of doing business with EMS. You're going to find very few EMS services across the country that operate in the black. Like I said, Doug's
But you
research.
do have the option of finding out through their social security number and attaching their income tax returns.
Yes, ma'am.
We are doing the debt set-off and everything. We just actually worked that process the 1st of August. And
Now, you've been doing it for several years.
well, I'm just this year's
Okay.
process.
But a lot of times when people don't get an income tax return, you're just up the creek, and we write it off.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it is North Carolina state law. If you're dispatched, you have to respond. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
It's not Alexander
No,
County ordinances. This is North Carolina state law.
And I have seen people, I've actually picked up a gentleman that was having a heart attack, and his biggest concern was I could see he was having a heart attack, and he wouldn't go because he could not afford it. And
Doug,
Well, I mean, I know that it's a problem, and I just wanted, I don't know. I just don't know why we have to have another ambulance, 2 more ambulance services going.
Doug, this is one of those times where we can anticipate the future. What is the call volume going to look like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Is it going to be more than what we have now?
oh, most definitely. We're looking at, last year, we were at 5,400 for the total year. And in July, we were at 60, or to average that, July, we were almost 300 more of what we were to July of last year. So
And-
we're seeing a steady increase.
And at the beginning of last year's budget, we were looking at the proposal to build a new EMS station, add an additional ambulance in addition to the ones we already have, and add a whole new extra crew, which was going to cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of, help me if I'm wrong, 2.5 million or something like that, 3.5 million.
Another 800,000 in salaries.
Number 800,000. And this is going to do that based on the Western Piedmont Council of Government study, the hot spots, the response time, and you're going to be able to pull that off for under $60,000 a year.
For that process, for the 38 weeks, for under $60,000 a year, yes.
And hopefully with a $20,000 savings on top of that.
Hopefully.
But what
Hopefully,
everybody
I
needs
would like to see a lot more than that, just to tell you the truth.
Right. But everybody needs to understand, this is a pilot program that we're going to run
Correct.
for 1 year. We're going to do our own study to see how economically feasible it is for us to do that and how well it's going to work. This is a study that we talked about doing, and it's not something that's going to be fully implemented. This is totally a trial basis so that we can understand the cost effectiveness of this program. That's all we're doing.
Correct.
And, and then if it doesn't do the things that we want to do, then we'll just wax it. I mean, that's all you can do. I mean, I commend you on the way you've done things. I think it looks good. It's basically set up basically the same way the COG did the study. And I think it's a good program. I think it's going to be good because the one thing that's always bothered me, when you have 2 ambulances out of the county, yes, you have the rescue squad on standby, but you bring the ambulance from Bethlehem, bring it to the V point at Probst Superette, and those guys are sitting there. I mean, and people come by like, what are they sitting there for? Well, most of us know why that's involved. And that takes that ambulance out of Bethlehem. That's not, you know, that's not good business practice to move it from there, nor is it good business practice to move it from here to there. So, you know, I think all in all, I think it's a good program. I think you've done a good job, and I commend you on it. I'm looking forward to it. I like the idea of not having nothing against the EMTs, okay? To get me straight, I appreciate our EMTs. They do a good job, fantastic. But like Doug was saying, having the paramedics on there is much more vital to a person that's had a heart attack and some of the procedures that they can do in order to get you to the hospital safely, because they are in contact with the hospital, so.
But I want you to remember, to be a good paramedic, you have to be a good EMT.
Good EMT, right. But you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about the program that we're doing here and what you're talking about doing. And the reason you wanted to do it was so that you would have the advanced service on there because of the procedures you're able to do. That's why you wanted the 2 paramedics.
Correct.
Right.
Nothing against the EMT, period. They do a great job, you know, and so.
Commissioners, remember that the pilot program that I'd kind of come up with was going to be a partnership with the fire departments, where we're going to
Right.
split that money with the fire departments. And I have tried to dismantle this program. I've tried to figure out every single problem with it, and this program is superior to the one that I came up with.
Let me offer a comment. It's not directed toward any particular county commissioner. Anything that we approve, it's all the county commissioners voting for it. It's not whether it's Mr. Ferguson's idea or Mr. Mayberry's idea or Mr. Moose, Ms. Moose, or Mr. Yoder. The questions we're asking is just because we want to know the bottom line.
Right.
That's what we're asking these questions for. Like Larry said, I respect the EMTs because they used to, and EMS because they used to take my mother to wound care all the time when she was in her late 90s, and did an excellent job and really took care of her fine. The only thing is, I want to make sure that we are doing the right thing, and like Larry said, it's a pilot program. We'll step back in 6 months and see how it works. But one comment I want to follow up on that you said, and it's a question that Andrew asked you, is the reason the call volume is you anticipate increasing is because the population is getting older?
Yes and no.
So what are you basing that on then?
I'm thinking the age, and also, I hate to be mean, the obesity.
Just style of life?
The style of lifestyle, yes, sir.
Okay.
And you also got to throw in the drug problem,
Oh, the drug problem, fast food,
Alcohol.
everything.
the whole.
Okay, and that's important for everybody to know that too.
Commissioners, I'd like to add, the 2 fire departments that we've talked with, they're very positive about this. They're very excited about getting this program started. One of them actually calls me on a regular basis and said, when we're going to sit down with Doug and talk through the details. But we told them, we've got to come to you tonight. But I can tell you, Stony Point and Wittenberg Fire Department see the advantage, just like you do, of having that unit in their district. And it's going to cut down on the demand on their first responders because of quicker response. So they see that advantage. So I see this as honestly, from my point of view, as fire marshal, I see this as very positive for all our citizens because it gets that other truck out there during the day, during the week. And again, I commend Doug and his staff because they're going to be able to do that for just a little over that $50,000 that you set aside. And I think you'll see that difference in that 50 and that 58. I think they're going to make that up in additional calls that they can take.
Well, I think, you know, spending $58,000 is a lot better than spending $2.5 million.
Absolutely.
So, and this is one of the most important services that is provided by county government. And we appreciate everything that you guys do, and I know the citizens out there that you serve do. But, I mean, this is just, I hate to use this word, but it's a no-brainer, so.
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate to entertain a motion to
I
approve
was going to
this?
say at this time, I'd entertain the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the EMS pilot program proposal as outlined by Paramedic Gillespie, which would supersede the pilot program that I'd proposed earlier in the year.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Good job.
Mr. Chairman, before you go on to the next item, I did want to ask one question about the study that we had done. that was such an innovative study that the Western Piedmont Council of Governments did, that that it was nominated for a national award, I believe.
They won the award.
They won the award?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
All right, so they're pretty proud of that.
Yeah.
They're pretty proud of that.
You did a great job.
They did. Item number 8 on the agenda, request for 6 part-time DSS positions. This time we call on Cindy Holman, DSS Director.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to come forward tonight and to plea for permission to help hire some staff. 6 seems to be the magic number tonight. Our department, I have given you several handouts in your packet, and the very first one I want to bring your attention to is the positions that are being requested. We are asking for an adult Medicaid part-time worker, a family and children's Medicaid part-time worker, a front desk person to help us scan all the documentation into NC-FAST, a part-time accounting person to help us, a Medicaid transportation. You hear a Medicaid theme here, and you know our woes with NC-FAST. And then the last position is a part-time adult protective services worker. And the reason that I have asked for this adult position is because I was on the phone recently with our adult rep from the state, and they went through the responsibilities of our adult services workers, and she actually portioned it out into percentages of their time, and they are doing 113% of one job, and that is before their after-hours on-call time. They are both on a rotating schedule every other week at night when the agency closes, weekends, holidays. Every other week, they're on call after hours for a full week. So she's saying that 113% of a job is during their 40-hour work week, that they're doing more than they could possibly do during a work day, plus their on-call time. So I've laid out these positions and their costs, and I've brought the experts with me. I have our Chief Fiscal Officer, Sherry Deal, with me, and I also have our Senior Economic Services Supervisor, Trina Riddle, with me, who manages the Medicaid programs. In case you have any really deep questions that delve into the mechanics and the fiscal pieces of this. But I think the most important thing and the bottom line for you, as you've said, I could stand up here and talk all night long about the comp time that we have, the overtime. I think if you drive by our agency, any of you, you'll see us there on the weekends, you'll see us there in the evenings. We're unable to get NC-FAST, NC-TRAC, SEEK, ECAP, all of these programs that are coming at us and that are taking more time right now than originally. These programs are supposed to help us. They're automated programs. And we do see a light at the end of the tunnel, I think, several years down the road, that we're going to wonder how we ever did without NC-FAST and all of these programs that are going to help us determine eligibility for all of our programs. But right now, it takes us more time. It's been studied in Mecklenburg County, 40 to 60% per case more time to do the work that we have to do. So I wanted to, under the current economic situation that we're in, I wanted to assure you that I wouldn't be up here unless we were desperate for help. I think that you're probably sitting there thinking, okay, there's, and on the sheet, let me say this before I go to the next thing. At the bottom, you see, on this sheet, you see the cost of the positions. I couldn't possibly spend that much money now because I won't get them hired. If you were to approve these positions, it would be difficult for me to hire them before late September to get them on board. At the bottom of the page, you see the revenues that we're going to be able to pull in. I have given you 2 letters. The revenues are more than enough to pay for these 6 positions, and I guess that's probably the bottom line of what you want to hear.
Right, so you're going to assure us that this is going to be revenue neutral?
Well, I have given you, I'm going to try my best to assure you that the projections look really strong. In fact, I believe we'll bring in more money than this, and Sherry's here, I think she would agree with that. But if you have the June revenues that we've already, this is an actual expenditures report, and it shows the increase. You can see the money. What's going to change is anything that's done, these two letters show you that anything that's done in NC Fast, they're going to change the reimbursement from 50% federal and 50% county to 75% federal and 25% county. That's 25%. That's a significant amount of money. You can see on here, on the left, the increase in the NC Fast revenues. We're going to increase more as we just hard launched Medicaid and NC Fast today. So we're going to be doing more and more work in NC Fast. The other figure that's on this revenue sheet is the increase in the EIS, which is our old legacy system. The second letter that I gave you, which just came out in August, because I started to say, if I were a commissioner, I was sitting here, I would say, well, how come Ms. Holman didn't budget these revenues? Well, you see one of these letters is dated August the 28th, and I turned in my budget in February. So there was no way for me to anticipate that the federal government would start to give us more money for Medicaid. But they know we can't do it. We cannot. We are not the only county. 100 counties are struggling with this process. So they're giving us more money. Both of these letters tell us to reinvest these additional revenues in being able to get the job done, because there's a lot at stake here. I mean, these are people who are waiting on their Medicaid benefits. So I feel very comfortable that we are going to be completely able to pay for these 6 positions. And the option that I have toward the end of the year, if I start to see that we're struggling with our budget, is to release these positions, because they will be temporary, part-time, no benefits. I do not believe that we'll have to do that. But I wanted you to know that I do not feel like there will be any county dollars involved in us being able to put these 6 people on.
Well, based on what it's going to cost to do it now, if I'm wrong here, it's $83,470 for those employees that you're talking about there. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the expected revenue that will be coming in is $126,022.70, correct?
That's correct.
So therefore, it seems to me that it's a profit-making instead of a cost.
Right.
And, and then like you said, the one thing that you're telling us is that once you do this, that if it looks like it's going to be costing the county any money whatsoever, those people will be eliminated of their position because they are temporary.
That is correct.
And there will be no retirement, no benefits, no anything, because they are part-time employees, and they'll not be working over 1,000 hours a year, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so therefore they won't be eligible.
Cindy, where are you going to draw these folks from?
I hope to draw them from surrounding counties. I have 4 part-time employees right now that come from a surrounding county, and they are very good, trained. In fact, we actually called up and said, who are your best people? Would they like to work more than 40 hours a week? And I know you probably can't afford to pay them time and a half. So they work 40 hours a week in their home county and 16 to 19 hours a week in our county. And these 4 people have kept us afloat. We've not been on any of the bad lists for Food and Nutrition Services or Medicaid, really. We have done really well. We have a lot of comp time on the books, and Rick's been after me about that. And I've been saying, I just don't know how to get the job done and get the benefits out there without the comp time. And we're still going to have some problems with comp time. But if we get this help, we will start trying to wheedle at that and get that comp time down.
So what does the light at the end of the tunnel look like?
For the FNS program, when it started, not a day went by that we didn't have a case get hung up in the system and we couldn't get it processed. Food and Nutrition Services has now, we've worked through, we have probably, Trina, what would you say, how many on our, help desk tickets? Yes. We have 1 ticket. We have 20-some tickets up, but all the rest of them are Medicaid. And Medicaid is a much, much more complex program than FNS. But we have 1 ticket left on Food and Nutrition Services. So that program is coming along. They've rolled fixes. This has been going on for a year and a half. They've rolled fixes every single weekend since they rolled that program out. So It was not tested and tried enough before they rolled the program, but here we are. And does anybody want to go backwards? Heavens, no. We do believe that someday that we'll be able to screen for multiple programs. Your FNS, your Medicaid, your child support, your daycare, all of those people in one application process. And for your county client citizens, that's a better way to go.
It sure is, and it's more efficient. But what will that do for your staffing? Are you going to see a reduction in staffing once you got to that point where it's streamlined like that?
Well, originally, they anticipated that we would have some reduction in staff eventually. I will tell you that every county in the state has added staff so far. But the hope is that eventually we would be able to reduce the number of staff it takes to do the job. And I'm sure that we'd be able to do that through attrition, just because of the complexity. The other thing is the turnover. Because the work's so complex right now, and because we are working folks literally, shouldn't say the word to death, but we are working them. I gave you this. The red people are all less than 2 years. That's a whole unit, including the supervisor. I almost had a resignation today. We have too many people in those units. If I were a really, really brave director, I'd be asking for a supervisor, because this is not a supervisor. This is a troubleshooter position. It's all of this and this are under Trina. So, we're trying to be very frugal and use your resources, this county's resources, really well. And we're staying afloat, and that's what we're trying to do with these 6 positions, is just to stay afloat and get those benefits out.
Ms. Ullman, I don't want to be perceived as cutting you off,
No, sure.
but it's what you have proposed to us in this spreadsheet that folks at home cannot see, but it's what Mr. Yoder, the chairman, said. The cost of these part-time people is $83,470.83 a month. The revenues, potential revenues with the Medicaid reimbursement, or Medicare reimbursement, this Medicaid reimbursement has a potential of bringing in $126,000. That's about a net positive of $40-some thousand. It's a no-brainer. So if you're staying on topic of the 6 people you're asking for, I make a motion that we accept your request for 6 part-time DSS positions.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, can I point out something?
Yes.
Those positions cannot be hired until a budget amendment's done, and we'll do that
That's
next
correct.
next
That's
meeting.
right.
Right.
Okay, just want to be sure everybody understands that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm just making a motion on her proposal.
Right, I
Right.
understand.
And
I
then we'll
think
have to.
that's for my benefit mostly.
No, I mean, we can make the motion to approve, but you have to have the,
We got a
you have to have-
budget, we got a budget we have to.
There's one thing that bothers me about this. Why do you have to hire these 6 positions from other counties? I mean, why do they have people who can come?
They are experienced. I
You
wouldn't.
don't have any experience in this county.
Yes, ma'am. If I had people within the agency, it would be like stealing from myself. I don't have anybody that's
You can't
trained
train 'em?
in the community. We can train them, but it takes approximately a year to 2 years to train a Medicaid worker. So if we hire them, the people that were already working so much will be doing all the training. If we hire inexperienced people, we'll have a really difficult time making any progress at all. It wouldn't help us. It's unfortunate, because I agree with you, and I'd love to cultivate people within the community. But for right now, for this specific purpose, I need experienced people.
And other counties are not having this problem.
Oh, absolutely, they are. All of them.
But their people have enough, they are willing to come. and
No,
do-
ma'am. Almost every county. Caldwell County will be in front of their commissioners soon. They're putting together a proposal right now. Almost
The
every.
people that you get, they're going to be coming from another county, and they're already putting in extra hours there, and they're going to come here and put in more.
Well, That's if I'm lucky enough to find those people. But yes, we have 4 right now. They're working 40 in their home county, they're flexing their time, and they're coming over here and working for us. They come, Rick said he sent them here at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. As soon as that system comes up, they come because they'd rather get their time in early in the morning and be off by noon Saturday.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. I'll call for the vote. Is there any other discussion from the commissioners? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Item number 9 on the agenda tonight, approval of U.S. Department of Commerce's Economic Development Award for the Alexander Applied Technologies Building. Mr. French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your package, you have a copy of the letter that was sent to both Alexander County and CVCC from a joint application which represents $1.5 million EDA investment for the renovation of the existing facility to create, as we talked about earlier, the Alexander Applied Technologies Building. This is part of a process that we've been going through. There's been some questions about number of jobs over in Catawba County and how it relates to this program. And in Catawba County, they have a furniture academy, and they're sponsored by several of the furniture companies, and all those students, upon completion of their work, go to work in those companies. One of the figures I've seen from CVCC is 30 students that have graduated have found employment in Catawba County. So what we would ask you to do tonight is approve the EDA application so I can sign it tomorrow, and we can get Dr. Henshaw to sign it so we can get it in the mail. This is 100%, so we want to jump on this as soon as possible. But this is another step. We won't be starting next week. We still have to go through we have other processes to go through. We have to get an agreement with CVCC. We have to select an architect, and before we do anything, we've got to adopt a project ordinance, and all that's coming. There's a lot of pieces to this project, but the EDA is a big piece of this, the major piece of this, and it's $1.5 million. I'd like to recommend approval at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. I entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the EDA request or grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just wanted to read one thing off right here before you, I wanted to read this. The EDA's mission, this is in the letter we got, is to lead the federal economic development agenda by promoting innovation and competitiveness, preparing American regions for growth and success in the worldwide economy. EDA implements this mission by making strategic investments in the nation's most economically distressed communities that encourage private sector collaboration and creation of higher-skilled, higher-wage jobs. EDA investments are results-driven, embracing the principles of technological innovation, entrepreneurship, and regional development. So I just wanted to read that off because I think that's important for the public to understand what it is we're hoping to accomplish here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The motion's on the floor. Is there any other conversation? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise. Mr. French, one question quickly.
Yes, sir.
How much money have we now gotten between the county and CVCC in grant money?
We have the 1.5 here, 900,000 Golden Leaf money, and 100,000 from Appalachian Regional Commission
Okay,
so far. And Duke Energy has some money involved. We'll have some money involved in it, so there's a lot of grant money.
A lot of grant money, a lot of things coming together.
That's right, yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 10, proclamation declaring Monday, September the 22nd through Saturday, September the 27th, 2014, as Hidden Night Celebration of the Arts Week. I have a proclamation here. I'll take just a moment to read this if you all don't mind. Whereas for 33 consecutive years, the Hidden Night Center has served Alexander County and the surrounding region as the premier destination for quality arts and cultural heritage programming that is accessible for all people. And whereas the Hidden Night Center works in partnership with Alexander County government to promote travel and tourism within the county through the Alexander County Visitor Center housed within the center's Lucas Mansion. And whereas the Hidnight Center's 33rd Annual Celebration of the Arts Festival, held on the fourth Saturday of September from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. on Hidnight Church Road, showcases the diverse group of regional artists and craft vendors, provides hands-on demonstrations of folkways and cultural arts traditions, features 4 performance stages for music and dance, and annually brings an estimated 10,000 people to Alexander County. And whereas Alexander County is proud to support the arts in our community and to partner with the Hidnight Center to encourage the growth of Alexander County's creative economy. And whereas the Alexander County Board of Commissioners wishes to commend the Hidnight Center staff and Board of Directors for their continued dedication to excellence and for the tremendous impact their arts and heritage program has on generations of North Carolinians. Be it therefore resolved that the Alexander County Board of Commissioners declares Monday, September the 22nd through Saturday, September the 27th, 2014, Hidnight Center Celebration of the Arts Week, adopted this the 8th day of September 2014, and I'd make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion is made and second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those against, likewise, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. French, item number 11, request to follow State of North Carolina Christmas holiday schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a recommendation that we adopt the state 2014 Christmas schedule, which would basically add additional holiday, which would be the 26th of December. County employees currently get 24th and 25th, but this would add Friday, the 26th. I'll be glad to answer any questions. This is just follow the state schedule.
That's traditionally what we do.
No, we don't always follow the state schedule.
We have since I've been here.
We have in occasions where it's at the end of the week like this, so.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we follow the state schedule.
Is there a second?
I second.
Motion's made and second. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 12, sales tax update. Mr. French, County Manager.
For 12 months, we've collected $3,659,108, which is $13,918 more than 2013 sales tax figures. We were just over budget by 0.38%. So, I mean, we were just over budget by just over a little over 1%. But if you throw in the hold harmless, $128,133, we're behind. But that's the sales tax report. Been pretty consistent this year.
At least it's a micro trend in the right direction.
It is, yes, sir.
Came out better than what we anticipated.
Just
And
barely.
it really did. Thank you very much. Item number 13, board appointments and reappointments. Mr. French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Western Piedmont Council of Government Region E Aging Committee appoint Shirley Flowers and Kay Ivy to 2-year terms. Planning and Zoning Commission appoint John Moore, 2 years. Western Piedmont Council of Government Region E Development Corporation reappoint Milton Campbell, 3 years.
I entertain a motion at this time, ladies and gentlemen.
Move to approve the Alexander County appointments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and second. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Budget ordinance amendments, I did say ladies and gentlemen. Budget ordinance amendments number 8 and number 9. Mr. French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Budget amendment number 8 is to increase planning budget for the Western Piedmont Council of Government contract to develop a minimum housing code for Alexander County contract. Was approved in 2014, but the work carried over to July and will be paid from the fiscal year 2015 budget to increase the human resource budget to provide mandated training of all managers, supervisors per negotiated EEOC agreements. The county's current HR consultants will be conducting the training to increase inspections budget for temporary clerical employed to cover the office while inspections department staff are in training for permitting software, to increase the health department budget for several programs, PCM and CC4C, Medicaid reimbursement funds carried forward from prior years that must be spent in fiscal year 2015 only for the programs of pregnancy care management and care coordination for children, and also to adjust the senior center budget revenue line items to match the grant contract with the state. Budget amendment number 9 is to increase the EMS budget for the pilot program to place 2 EMS units at volunteer fire department locations staffed by part-time EMS workers. That's what you approved earlier. And here's the budget amendment to cover that. To increase the sheriff's office budget to purchase small equipment items for use in investigative operations. Funding provided by the U.S. Marshal Service to increase the sheriff's office budget to purchase 35 bulletproof vests, which is $22,750. Purchase is funded by $20,125 of capital outlay funds approved in the fiscal year 2015 budget, and for $2,625 of federal equitable share funds received in prior years, which are the fund balance, and to increase the sheriff's office budget to purchase a GPS tracker unit, $2,615, and 4 Viper radios, $82.77 from federal equitable share funds received in prior years, fund balance, to increase 911 communications budget for the installation of equipment to switch from the current AT&T data circuits to county-owned fiber, which would save us money. I'll be glad to answer any questions, or try to answer any questions about those, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. French, I've got a question about budget amendment number 8.
Yes, sir.
In the contract services to increase the human resources budget to provide mandated ADA and Title VII
Yes, sir.
training.
Yes, sir.
Why was that not included in the budget that we approved in June?
It was part of an EEOC settlement that we just settled on.
Okay. So that could not have been anticipated?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you said we would save money by switching from the current AT&T data circuits to the
Yes, sir.
county-owned fiber?
We have a monthly bill, and this switching to county-owned fiber will be expensive at first, but then the monthly fees will exceed it over a year. We'll save a couple $1,000s over the first year, and then we'll save more every year after that.
And the federal equitable share funds,
Those are
that's money that is coming from the federal government that we've just held in the general fund for the sheriff's department until they decide to spend that.
more or less, yes, sir. It's federal money, yes, sir. It's
Okay.
not county money.
That's all the questions I have.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Budget ordinance amendments number 8 and number 9.
Do you have a second?
I second it.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Number 15, other business. Mr. French, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One thing we passed out tonight is the financial report for the general fund for August 2014. Also point out that the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners legislative goals process is currently underway. Deadline for submission of goals is September 19th of 2014. The conference is in January 15 and 16 of 2015. Also, county staff are organizing, advertising, and working the finish line for the Midnight Festival Road Race, which of course is held in conjunction with Midnight Festival, which Chairman Yoder read the resolution earlier on September 27, 2014. As mentioned earlier about the governor's 5K run, the county staff ran the finish line for that, and I'd like to thank Greg Cronk for all his work with that. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, consent agenda. Motion to approve.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise, the motion carries. Mr. French, do we need a closed session?
Yes, sir, we certainly do.
Closed session, I'll make a motion, we have a closed session under North Carolina General Statutes 143-318.11, paragraph A, to prevent disclosure of confidential information in reference to economic development, contractual, and personnel. I make that in form of a motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all those in favor indicate by raising your right hand. Those opposed likewise. Thank you. Now, we will re-adjourn for the primary purpose of adjournment only. No action will be taken.
Micah?